So, in this week's episode, I'm going to finish up the neck. I'm going to put the side dots in, radius the fretboard, do all that stuff, get ready to take over to Mark's, and he's going to do the frets and such. But it occurred to me, and also we're going to then get into stabilizing the bodies. Going to put some hardener in them, use some heavy duty filler for some of the more egregious areas, and get that all sorted out. But one of the more important things is that I'm going to add a couple hours onto the time clock, the running time, because it occurred to me I had spent an hour and a half-ish on things that weren't recorded, like binding the two necks before I bound the third, which I filmed, or the fact that I forgot to record the actual doing the mica and CA glue in the position markers. So I'm going to add 2 hours onto the clock. Might be more than I need to, but it's not going to make that big of a difference if I'm off by a half hour or so. So anyway, let's get started. So I'm in the middle of doing the 12-inch radius on all the fretboards. I've got the first two done, 280 grit, which of course is the most tedious part of the process. I try to keep the center line on the fretboard because I know once that line goes away, I'm done. Yeah, nobody wants to watch this. I have sanded almost up to 800 grit on all three necks. And I'll tell you what, every now and then you buy a tool and you go, how did I live without this? And even though it was a little more expensive than I really would have liked, this radiused aluminum Stumac leveling bar is worth its weight in gold. And then getting the long stick-on sandpaper, very nice. I'm gonna sand up to 800 on these three, and then I'm gonna polish up to 3,000 probably, because since I'm doing the CA glue and mica inlays, I want to at least get them polished enough that it'd be nice if they were clear. I don't know if I can get that. It's dark, so you might not be able to tell even if it is clear. But yeah, go with what we can. One thing that's been revealed as I have gotten the radius in is I had a little more glue leak into the fret slots than I thought, so I got to go back in and get that out before we fret. Place a mark in a couple places. The wood being as full of interest as it is, I'm going to have to grain fill this. It's just absolute going to have to happen. But before I do the grain filling, I'm going in and hitting all the really, really awful spots, kind of like yeah. So this, I've stabilized the hell out of it. So first thing I did is I hit it with wood hardener, damn near a whole bottle per for each instrument per side. So yeah, one bottle for the tops, one bottle for the bottoms. And that has made this, despite the appearance, it's super solid now. There's no movement at all. But that still means I've got to do something about all these little bits of, as we said earlier, interest. So anyway, first the hardener. There's some other stuff that I will link. Mangled Guitars turned me on to it, and I just haven't had a chance to pick up any yet. Another kind of hardener that's really good. So this, and then wood bondo, hardener and everything. That's what I applied earlier today. They say with a hardener, 1/16, 16:1. As I have no idea if that is 16:1. I'm going to just pretend it is. All right. There we go. All right, let them dry, sand them down, and either grain fill next or do a little more carving. Might need to do a little more carving. Down grain fill. Yes. I'm just sanding this off, and then I'll hit the backs and do the same thing, and then move on to grain filling, I think. Trying to sort out the blade switch on the pickguard for this this particular V6. Where is it? There it is. Quick note that I forgot to mention about this. This pickguard is the same pickguard I'm going to be using on all three of these models. It's just this one was in process for this particular V6 already, so I'm going to be using the same thing. But I figured I might as well count the time in sorting out the template towards the build of the three. It just happens to be benefiting the one as well. And did a lot of research on ways to go about this. You know, one of them is to use a plate from another guitar and tape it down and drill a couple holes and scribe it with a scalpel and just slowly cut through, which works. I've done that before. But I wanted something a little more repeatable. So what I did was, on my template, well, first of all, what I did is I got a set of these Harbor Freight bushings for my router, for my Colt. I actually do for any router. And what they let you do is, the bushing is a guide in a larger slot, which means you can use a tinier router bit than you can get with a bearing on it. So in this case, I think it's a 1/16 of an inch. 16th? Maybe it's a little bigger than that. But anyway, it's a thin little slot. So I'm using this special low helix downward spiral cutter on the router, which is supposed to do a better job on the plastic, not cause so much burning and melting and things of that nature. So we'll see if that works. One of the other problems that I ran into was, after I ordered the bushings, I discovered that they are smaller than the standard hole in the Colt plastic router base that just comes with it. as can be seen here. So I had to get a router base for the Colt with a smaller hole, and I found this groovy little thing by Woodhaven, and it bolts right onto the Colt, fits perfectly. The bushings fit right into it, and I'm really quite pleased with it. And we'll find out how well it works in a second, but I have no doubts it'll be just groovy. The one thing to keep in mind, though, if you go this bushing route with the to make these kinds of slots, make sure that your template material is thick enough for the bushing you're going to use. Fortunately, I'm using the smallest one, and my little, what is it? Yeah, 1/4 inch template. It's not very thick. It'll work with this, but as you can see, just one bushing up, and the depth of the little tube, the little guide tube, is greater than that. So I would have had to short it up or whatever, and no big deal, but something I'm glad I didn't have to sort out for this particular video. Anyway, let's do it and see how it works. This should be pretty cool. And as always, whenever doing this kind of thing, highly recommend getting yourself one of these on-off foot switches. I think this was Harbor Freight, $20 or less. Not a time lapse. I think I've been thwarted. So the intent with this video was to get everything to the point of putting the putting the grain filler in and getting the body sanded down, so we're down to finishing, basically. However, today's not been the greatest temperature-wise. It's been raining a lot, and made it a little tricky to do some of the stuff in the garage I wanted to do in the shop. So the weather is going south in a second. It's going to be I think a high of 15 for the next week. Ooh, heavy wind. And I don't know what that exactly means for this build. One thing I wanted to talk about real quick at the end of the video is, clearly I'm not counting the time it takes for stuff to dry. So like when I put the binding on the necks, or when I glued up the body blanks, or anything like that where there was a drying period, I'm not counting the drying time. So I don't know, normally I would do that overnight anyway, so I wouldn't really add that into the time it takes to build the guitar, So if y'all think I should add that time back in, just post in the comments, and we'll see if I do it or not. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're getting something out of this besides realizing I'm insane. And I will see you next time. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. All the good stuff. And I appreciate it. And talk to you soon.